Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this webinar hosted by OpenSec, Simplify, Secure, Accelerate. Who we are? OpenSec Latam started 17 years ago, focused on delivering only offensive security services and keeps doing it. OpenSec LLC started operation in US in 2018, leveraging the deployment of technology through pen testing and red team services. OpenSec SaaS started in Ecuador in 2024. We have customers in several countries such as Argentina, Chile, Bolivia, Ecuador, Colombia, El Salvador, Pakistan, Panama, and US. We only do offensive security. This is our core team. Research giving back to the community. DEFCON 26 and 2018. It's a workshop on Ecopari, Argentina. A talk given by Walter Cuestas at DEFCON titled Initial Compromise Through Website. A talk about red teaming with Cesar Cuadra and Hernan Parodi in Ecopari. At B-Sides Ecuador, again, red teaming with Cesar Cuadra and William Marchand. In Saga, Walter Cuestas with a talk titled Positive Hugging. In Ecopari 2022, sponsors of DEFCON 31 Red Team Village on 2023, and on BrewCon on 2023, and in Ecopari Argentina in 2023. Our customers, our offensive security services, agile and continuous pen testing, accurate and appropriate security testing at each stage of the pipeline according to the agile methodologies that can be executed in short periods of time, with immediately achievable solutions under the support of our experts in offensive security for applications. Pen testing for compliance. Standard and regulations such as a PCI DSS, SWIFT, SOX, HITRUST, and those of local scope, country or region required to perform security tests at infrastructure and application level under a definition of scope, and recommendations that are effective and efficient for compliance that allow to conclude in a successful audit process. Pen testing for acquisition, mergers, and third-party services. Being aware of the actual risk level of the information assets exposed through technology is an important evaluation point when it comes to incorporation of new organizations into corporations. Testing security and remediating vulnerabilities before the potential buyer or new business partner thus is vital. Pen testing at all levels. Specific testing for assets ranging from on-premise infrastructure to infrastructure as a service, IaaS, from web and mobile applications that have a backend in a traditional data center to software and platform as a services, SaaS and PaaS, proprietary and third-party APIs, industrial control system, ICS, and critical infrastructure. Pen testing in the retail sector. Devices such as POS incorporate a great amount of functionalities nowadays, and their expansions at all levels is massive. In addition, complementary applications and integrations end up being the perfect complement for environments where the protection of personal information and fraud prevention are extremely important. Pentesting financial market. The financial environment has been revolutionized with changes ranging from digital transformations to operations based on cryptocurrencies, and in all cases the potential for fraud is high, without leaving aside the need to test the different service channels, including ATM. Security testing is required for digital products and fintech services that require a security enabling concept and not an inhibiting one. Red Team. Years of experience performing diverse security testing in different organizations globally allow us to have a team of offensive security experts who develop red teaming operations, providing real value in threat emulation and adversary simulation exercises for different levels of cybersecurity maturity. We can provide the appropriate type of exercises on a timely and continuous basis. Cyber threat intelligence. Modern threats have shown that it's necessary to adopt a tactical strategy that allows us to stay ahead of real attackers. For this reason, knowing advance what tactics, techniques, and procedures they use is vital to ensure that threats are correctly identified and accurately evaluated. With many years of experience developing reconnaissance practice and using various mechanisms, our red team provides information ready to take preventive actions. Summary of services. Pen testing. At a traditional data center level, on premises, at the level of infrastructure, software, and platform as a service, cloud, at the application level, DaaS, SaaS, front-end and back-end, web mobile, client-server, standard and proprietary APIs, microservices. At the payment services levels, merchant, gateway, processor, issuer, acquirer. At the level of industrial control system, ICS. Security testing. Security testing for automatic teller machines, ATMs, and real virtual point of sale, POS, switches and transactional authorizers, social engineering and physical intrusion tests, red teaming operations, DevSecOps deployments, cyber threat intelligence. PCI DSS version 4.0.1 and security testing. Payment card industry data security standard. It is a standard developed to guide organizations in the protection and security of payment card data. It has been developed by 5 of the most important card brands such as Visa, MasterCard, etc., who evaluate PCI DSS compliance. The evaluation is carried out by the Qualified Security Assessor (QSA), a professional entity certified by the Payment Card Industry Security Standard Council (PCI DSS), who is subject to the standard's compliance. The standard applies to any entity that store, process, or transmit payment card information. Among these entities, we have merchants, online stores, e-commerce, supermarkets and convenience stores, service providers, online payment service providers, payment processors, hosting company that store payment card information, financial institutions, issuing banks, acquiring banks. Who evaluates compliance? Qualified Security Assessor, QSA. It is the entity responsible for conducting the compliance audit of the standard and is known as the QSA or Qualified Security Assessor. The QSA is certified by the PCI DSS, the Council. The evaluation is conducted once a year. The QSA is the one who ultimately decides if the entity subject to audit complies with the standard. What happens if the standard is not met? Fines, loss of processing privileges, damaged reputation, legal responsibilities. Approved Scanning Vendor, ASV. It is the entity authorized to perform security scans to assess compliance with the requirements, known as a ASV, or Approved Scanning Vendor. The ASV is certified by the PCI DSS, the Council. PCI DSS requirements related to ASV. The PCI DSS requires that vulnerability scans be performed by an authorized ASV to ensure that accuracy and validity of the results. PCI DSS requirements related to ASV. The PCI DSS requires that vulnerability scans be performed by the authorized ASV to ensure that accuracy and validity of the results. Important benefit of using an ASV: independent validation of system security. Penetration testing for PCI DSS compliance. Define the scope. What does defining the scope mean? Define the scope involves identify people, process, and technologies that interact with the security of CHD and SAT. Why is it important? Properly defining the scope is important because it ensures that all relevant components are evaluated and that the necessary security controls are implemented. The scope for each entity is different and must include the CDE. Segmentation. What is segmentation? Segmentation involves implementing additional controls to separate systems with different security needs. Why is it important? As mentioned in the supplemental guide on scope and segmentation, segmentation is an effective method to reduce the scope of the PCI DSS assessment, the cost of the PCI DSS assessment, the cost and difficulty of implementing and maintaining PCI DSS controls, reduce risk by consolidating the CDE environment in fewer locations, and better control. PCI DSS version 4.0.1 requirements. Security testing. PCI DSS requirement 6.2 and 6.3. Custom and tailored software is developed securely. 6.2. Focus on the prevention, detection, and resolution of application-level vulnerabilities. Secure development of application in accordance with PCI DSS. Training of personnel at least once a year. Code review before moving to the production environment. Detection of vulnerabilities such as injection types, business logic attacks, bypassing authorization, and authentication mechanisms, etc. Applied OWASP guidelines, Web Application Pentesting. 6.3 refers to the risk rating of vulnerabilities. The main objective of the entity is to apply a strategy for risk assessments and prioritize the remediation of vulnerabilities according to their severity. PCI DSS Requirement 11.3. External and internal vulnerabilities are periodically identified, prioritized, and addressed. Vulnerability scanning, at least once every 3 months, whenever critical or high-risk vulnerabilities are remediated. Scanning must be performed by qualified personnel when organizational independence exists. It is not necessary to use a QSA or ASV for internal vulnerability scanning. An ASV is required for external scanning. Vulnerabilities not rated as high or critical are addressed according to the entity's objective risk analysis. New scans are conducted as needed. PCI DSS Requirement 11.4. External and internal penetration tests are performed periodically and exploitable vulnerabilities and security weaknesses are corrected. The pentest methodology is defined, documented, and implemented by the entity. Coverage for the entire perimeter of the CDE and critical systems. Testing from both inside and outside the network. Test to validate any segmentation and scope reduction controls. Application layer penetration testing to identify at a minimum the vulnerabilities listed in requirement 6.2.4. Network layer penetration testing covering all components supporting network functions as well as operation systems. OpenSec provides advisory services for defining pentesting methodology. Penetration testing, at least once every 12 months, after any significant infrastructure or application update or change, by a qualified internal resource or a qualified external third party. There is organizational independence of the evaluator. It doesn't need to be a QSA or ASV. OpenSec provides penetration testing services for all types of entities, covering infrastructure, application, and devices. Our team pentester has the best qualifications, capabilities, and experience in PCI DSS. Exploitable vulnerabilities and security weaknesses found during penetration tests are corrected as follows, according to the entity assessments of the risks posed by the security issues as defined in requirement 6.3.1. Penetration tests are repeated to verify the fixes, retest. OpenSec provides Pentester.One, an attack surface management tool that allows proper management of the pentest results. Today, almost every test can be performed by the entity's staff, requires qualifications, and organizational independence. This procedure requires partners, external vulnerability scanning, because an ASV is required. OpenSec provides vulnerability scanning in alliance with Carson and Saint. Penetration testing. QSAs rely heavily on the partner's experience and the qualification and experience of their pen testers. OpenSec provides penetration testing that meets QSA requirements. Training. Awareness for all. Secure application development by entities staff. Development of penetration testing methodology. OpenSec collaborate by providing a template. Internal vulnerability scanning does not require ASV compliance. Secure development. Whether DevSecOps is used or not, some tasks are carried out on a daily basis, such as source code reviews, vulnerability scans, and certain points, SCA analysis, etc. PCI DSS security testing. What should be tested? Everything related to the CDE directly or indirectly, infrastructure, operation system and base software, network, segmentation, applications that manage cardholder information through the frontend and include APIs. How should it be tested? Greybox allows a better understanding of the business. Authentication. Application penetration testing requires testing functionalities before and after authentication. Infrastructure penetration testing and vulnerability scanning can be done without or with authentication until March 31, 2025. For now, if done with authentication, it is considered a good practice. PCI DSS security testing. Frequency. Secure development always. Training. Awareness once a year and inductive. Developers once a year. Vulnerability scanning every 3 months or when there are significant changes. Penetration testing once a year or when there are significant changes. Pen testing is not only about traditional vulnerabilities. In the first request, we have a post login with user and password, and then we're going to communicate with the telco, and a request recharge amount response min 3 max 50. Next request is post purchase amount 50 response recharge token, and in the next request is post payment, but the amount is going to be 3 and it's going to have another token. And finally, in the next request, in post payment confirmation, the recharge token is going to be for the amount of 50, and authorization token, I'm going to pay 3. So my amount is 50, and response recharger through. Our penetration testing framework: recon, information gathering, enumeration, research, then scanning, vulnerability identification, attack vector design, vulnerability confirmation, in testing, test with exploit, test with credentials, penetration, and privilege escalation. And finally, the analysis, vulnerability scoring, and report. Attack Surface Manager, Pentester.One. Pentester.One finding list with name, type, code, state, and criticality. The description, the affected URLs and hosts, the proof of concept explained and with images, the explanation of criticality, prerequisites and tools used, executive and technical reports, and main dashboard, the infrastructure pentest, web pentest, mobile app pentest, and API pentest, with all the information in the dashboard. Do you get questions about PCI DSS security testing and your own environment? Just ask for free. Ask me anything. 1 hour virtual session with our experts. Thanks.